I'm only 3 right and 2 down in darkness because it is a bit of a dull day, overcast as you can probably tell. But yeah, not all grey soils are grey soils. This one here, which was really that sort of grey to almost jet black, has it totally paled out? Yeah, right the way through. So, but if you notice bits of it are, if I go into spot cullen, which we didn't do the other day properly, I don't think, which was unfortunate. I'll get it on there. Okay. There's a little bit of colour on some of this, and some of this stuff might be going to go green. I don't know. Eventually, I don't know. Have to see. But the ants seem to be exploring all the area now after a bit of rain. But this one with the bark chips in it, as you can probably see, the bark chips in there and in there, it's still staying grey. So that's quite interesting. So that's why I'm doing some experiments in the bottle with some bark chips on the bottom to see if that changes anything with the red organisms. Now this one also came out, has, like, I think newspaper cellulose in with it, came out almost black, has very little grey, almost all black, almost charcoal black, but it's been washed through by the rain. But we still got if we can go in there, you can see what it came out as. It came out like that, but it doesn't stay like that. It gets flushed through, whereas this, as you can see, does. If we see, it's not jet black underneath. It's just the same colour all the way throughout. Though it was a little bit darker when we turfed it out, but it's solidly grey throughout and a staying grey sort of thing. So that's what I'm saying basically. So we'll see how we go with some of these other ones. So we have a nice patch of green moss. Suddenly turns up on one of the mounds, we'll make note of it, sort of thing. So anyway, cherry trees in flower. Well, there you go. Oh wow, a variegated one, sort of pink, unless it's just blushing, I don't know. Anyway, I thought I'd just do a season roundup, and I think we're still on spot cullen, so it shifted the whole mountain this season basically. It doesn't seem like we did very much, but I think we shifted the whole mountain. Now this one is very interesting. I don't know if you can see this, but it's still growing now, and as the leaves come out, they've got this sort of expansive nature to them. You can see that in some of the wild chops in North Carolina. You've got these plants with this sort of waxy, expansive look. Just put a little baby pup in there. And we've got that one there, and of course we've got our cake seedlings there. Now these ones over here in the wax and the surfactant sand, they have consistently just plugged out traps right throughout. So yeah, and they're coming up quite nicely with the cold nights. These didn't do that much, but it's a learning curve, fellas. You've got to learn somewhere. But this one looks really nice. But what I want to, another shot from a different angle, I suppose. It started really well with the bark chips at the beginning. But what I want to do is pull away some of the bark chips today, and just see if the sand underneath. No, the sand is not grey. Well, there you go. It's a surprise for you. I do these things for you, fellas. So it looks like we may have some sort of combination with the salinity and the greying of the soil. So you may have to be saline to some extent to get that greying soil. Because the question is whether or not that greying soil is a good thing. Weeds. It looks like a dandelion. Yeah, I know, not the best, but I'll cut them out as little screenshots for you, because I know you like them. We've got some Agonis here, I think it's Agonis, flexuosa. Now this one, I like this is a weed, but I just steadily watch this grow and grow, so it grew quite slowly, but persistently, and continually, and that's what I like. If I could do a CP the same way as this weed, I love it. I wouldn't mind it taking an inordinate amount of time. You could guarantee its growth. You can watch it grow. It gets bigger. It branches, divides, flowers, and blah blah blah. Anyway, I'll just do some of these because we don't have more sun. Yeah, yeah. They're not the best in the world, but they are quite colourful. And yeah, this one didn't work too well. I'll photograph it anyway, but yeah, they're it's crap because. And the only difference between this one and this one that worked quite well is it's just flipped upside down. It's a slant pot, of course, but it's flipped upside down. This one's quite nice now. I mean, I wonder if they actually go out and photograph the flytraps at this time, their equivalent at this time of the year. That's the thing. We don't really realise that they're photographing them with a cool temperature. We think it's all hot and humid and all that. When they photograph the best looking flytraps in the wild over there, it's yeah, these ones. Oh, they're all nice for a time. Oh, and this one here, this is the one that John Noyen in America said wasn't going to survive. It's survived. It hasn't done much, but there you go, John. You were wrong. Just like to rub it in there, Sancho. I know you like rubbing things into me, so I thought I'd rub things into you. What goes around comes around. No, and this one, even though it took about 6 weeks to get going, because the polystyrene takes quite a while to get wetted down and really get going. I'm quite happy. This is a cape growing in sand. It's basically a perched water table, because the sand actually stays wetter. I don't know if you realise that. With the one thing about a perched water table is the soil is consistently wetter and stays wetter for longer than it would normally be if it wasn't perched. They don't seem to explain that in the books. That's the salient point about a perched water table, is it's wetter and stays wetter for longer than it would normally be, because the sand doesn't consistently touch the underpart or the other horizon underneath, and therefore the water doesn't drain away. Especially with polystyrene foam beads, which are somewhat hydrophobic. So this actually consistently stays wetter, especially once the sand has got to this that collyl stage. I call it the collyl stage, using an Arabic term, but they use for dates. If you eat dates, you understand what I mean. But if you don't, you probably won't. Sort of thing. So it's actually surviving. And this is sand, and normally if you put a normal CP in just pure sand, it just gets smaller and smaller and just fade away and die, sort of thing. But now we've actually got a cape going in pure sand at the top. Of course, it'd be so much better if we combined the charcoal with the polystyrene foam, of course. And of course, our idea, we only need to add about 10% charcoal, I think, from the bottle work. Twice as much as we're adding in the bottles at the moment, but it's still only 10%. So basically that's 5 litres. You only have to add half a litre or one of those borax container size amount of charcoal to a pot like this sort of thing. So but it's a so yeah. Anyway, but it's a 10 litre bucket, so you might want to add a litre. 10% of the whole volume, I suppose, because that's what we're doing with the bottles. The bottle is the whole volume. Okay, this one here, not the best, but this is with bark chip. Initially, it wasn't quite good, but it's consistently performed quite well towards the end of the season. The question is, have we got any grey sand down the bottom here? Anything grey? No, I don't think so. Not really grey. No, not really grey. So I think the greyness has got something to do with salinity. It's to do with iron and salinity, I think. So does that mean there's a lot of iron in bark chips? So as again, is the grey soil a good thing or a bad thing? Well, there are two states of grey soil: good grey soil and bad grey soil. So yeah, these didn't do too well. Absolute crap, these ones. But I will film them. This one, crap for quite a lot of the season, but very small. But it's starting to very colourful now. Very healthy, very colourful. But I wouldn't call it the best fly trap in the world. Laughable, really. Now with this one, this is my, and again, it's acting like a perched water table. This is the one with the what do you call it? The bran. We wettened up some bran. Wettened up, I know it's like. cotton, the American use of cotton, I suppose. And I don't like the sand. This sand that they've got now for play pit sand is crap. I'm going to try and go and find some old bags of the original stuff. But I suppose I'll get used to it, but over time, but it's crap. I've just put these in, and it'd be interesting to see if there's any nematodes that grow in the bran actually come up and either chew the roots off or have an interaction with the roots, you know. Trying to separate the nematodes, which we know can grow in bran. I mean, if you grow bran for about 6 weeks in a container, you know, to the surface sort of thing, you'll actually start to see the nematodes. They build up in such numbers, you can actually see them thrashing, and you've got this like sinter effect against the sunlight. You can see them thrashing around. Of course, you take a magnifying glass, or you take some out and put it under a microscope, and you actually see them. And there's just absolutely billions of them in there, sort of thing, you know, chewing through the bran sort of thing. So, and the other thing about the bran, it seems to be, if you look at the contents page on the side of the bag, basically it has the same constituency of what you would call an egg, you know, half fat, half protein. So you might want to take like meat and sawdust and make your own if you want, you know, sawdust, yeah, sort of thing. So, or we take, you know, maybe meat and candles or something, or meat and a bit of paraffin or something, half and half sort of thing, half protein, half, well, you know, paraffin isn't fat, but you know, it's just basically carbon and hydrogen sort of thing. You get my, I think you get my idea, my drift sort of thing. So basically, even though bran looks and feels like cheap sawdust, it's really the equivalent of adding an egg, basically, on a volume to volume basis, basically. I think it's volume to volume rather than weight to weight, but you can look that up on the side of the packet. These ones, quite good. And you can see you've got the polystyrene down there, so you know that's basically what I think kept them quite well for most of the season is the polystyrene. But what's going on with this patch here that had the original label? I watered with the original label in this area here, and it consistently did not grow moss for the whole entire season. It's slowly getting there now, very slowly. But for the entire season, it was basically a bare patch where the original label, you know, one of these labels down here, one of those original thing. So basically, don't put those on your soil when you initially get them. I don't know, there's so much plasticizer in those labels. It just leaches out initially from the label, and it will just, as I said, give you a bare patch for the whole season. It can't be good for the any roots in that zone underneath, I would have thought. Anyway, here's another one. I've shifted these pots around to get some more sun, because we're basically losing it as we go into the wet, basically. Oh, it's not the best fly trap in the world, but it has survived. And it has moved about 1.5 inches across the soil surface since I had it. Now, the important thing about this pot is just that it's a ring of newspaper cellulose with a central core of sand. There's no peat in there whatsoever, and yet we did get some growth, and amazingly, it suddenly took off, which is a sort of a pretty good signal that there's some sort of biological symbiosis would be going on, I would think. You know, that's a classic sign you see in books. You know, suddenly, you put plants in they don't thrive, and suddenly they take off and they thrive, and they consistently are better after a certain date, sort of thing. As certain things have climaxed in the pot and things like that. So yeah, let's take another look down there. Look at that rhizome. Had this whatever symbiotic relation occurred much earlier on in the season, we probably would have got a lot more growth at it, because you know we would have gone through a more sunny period and a warmer period of the season while the interaction was occurring. So yeah. This one with just a top layer of peat. You can do it with coir as well. Peat's slightly better than coir on the top surface. The rest is just pure sand underneath. Not the best fly trap in the world, but you know, it has survived. And if we can get our camera in there, we might, yeah, because they're starting to colour up, and by the end of the middle of the end of the month, they'll be quite really. These get really dark and almost burgundy purple sort of thing. Yeah. So this one, probably too much cellulose on the top. I think it was, we worked it out, was it 2 of those containers? So basically it's about a, did we say it was about a, we calculated it out, it was about 1 litre, wasn't it, on top, which is too much, I think. But it's as you can see in there, I don't know if you can see in there, but yeah, not the best fly trap in the world, but it means you can grow it without peat. But of course, we learned from this season, the eye-opening thing we learned from this season is basically things have to be anaerobic. Like your peat has to be down the bottom, your coir has to be down the bottom, your anything that's organic basically has to be down the bottom, and you can have all the sand all the way up the top, sort of thing. You might not like the rain splash from the sand, but you can do other things. And also the other thing, the important thing, is even the charcoal has to be down at the bottom, because it doesn't work unless it's anaerobic, of course. Terra Preta, basically, the secret of Terra Preta is the charcoal has to be anaerobic, has to be down under the soil, basically, to actually get it to be able to grow the organism. We are doing work on working out what's in the charcoal that's coming out of the charcoal that makes the organism grow. It does seem to be a biohome for the organism, the anaerobic organism sort of thing. Apparently these anaerobic organisms are nitrate consuming organisms, so you've got to ask yourself, where does the nitrate come from? in a supposedly a nutrient poor environment. Because I beg the question that all these plants have a salt index which is, 1/3, 2/3, even up to Sarracenia. I mean, what's the most consistent CP that most people grow? It's Sarracenia, which can handle seawater and above sort of thing, or potassium amended salt sort of thing. Helium 4 is up there too. Helium 4 is, it can handle quite a lot. Cephalotus somewhere between 2/3 and seawater. Just started at 2/3, you'll be quite happy. But why is the salt index in these CP so high if they're supposed to be nutrient poor plants? That begs the question, you see. I mean, I think that's the eye-opening thing. But as we said, we shifted a lot of work this season, and basically it seems like we've done nothing. But I think it's basically we're not going back there. We're just heading. How much do you want the future, fellas? How much do you really want the future? So yeah. Again, all these ones that had charcoal on the top and charcoal in them on the top bit, they were quite good when they were being watered last season. On a very regular basis, every hour and a half to 2 hours, basically, when you got on those really, really hot days. That's when they look really nice and they're growing quite well. As soon as we got out of that and we didn't have to water them anymore, crap, basically. I do like some of these pictures, but, they do have to grow big to really show themselves off. And they do, as you can see with these ones here, they do topple a lot, especially after wind. So, yeah, I do like them, and they would make good hybrids with other things. And if you can get them shorter by, hybridizing them with a perp or something, that would be absolutely fantastic. As I said, didn't do much at all with charcoal on the top, and the perlite. As I said, the thing with the perlite, again, it's like the charcoal. It does grow the organism really, really well. But only when it's in a bottle, absolutely saturated. It has to be anaerobic, basically. I don't know whether they jellify this stuff, if they actually jellify the perlite. So they sell it to you and you think, oh, it's the bee's knees, because they've got some jelly in there. It slowly wears itself out or something. And then they're selling you non-jellified perlite. It's basically expensive expanded sand. It's a bit of a con in a way, basically. And whether they are actually consistently getting better growth by actually having polystyrene down the bottom, or they have a little bit of polystyrene mixed in, maybe they've worked out you only need the same amount as charcoal. So you've got everything's perlite, but it's the 10% polystyrene in that's actually doing the business, and maybe they've got some jellified perlite in there, sort of thing, but they're not selling you jellified perlite. I don't know. Just seems like a bit of a con to me, actually. But as we learnt with the charcoal, it has to be anaerobic. So you basically got to have it down the bottom of your pots, basically, or somewhere in the pot that it stays permanently damp and wet to become anaerobic, sort of thing. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It's like the biochar. It won't work. Its basic principle is it has to be anaerobic, sort of thing. And the only one over here that we've got any success, and quite a good, for what it was, a shop bought. It went in there, it survived, and actually grew, but only right up against the edge of the pot, sort of thing. bark chips and sand. Everything that didn't have bark chips and sand didn't do too well. So that's why I'm doing some more work with bark chips and our pots out the back. This one, after a lot of rain, basically sand there. So we'll see if we can grow something in it eventually. But yeah, not the best fly trap in the world with this one. But I think that's the pot that has chalk down the bottom. So, you know, obviously